Next, we will move to Ms. Damoff.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Southern, for being here today. I want to go back to your trip that you took to Russia in 2018. Who paid for that trip?
I paid for it.
You mentioned that you did several interviews there. Were you paid for those interviews?
I was not paid to do any of those interviews.
So I mean, it's come up who you interviewed while you were there, Alexander Dugin, who not only has been referred to as Vladimir Putin's brain. Actually, before I ask you this, how did you get an interview with him?
I watched an episode of The Agenda with Steve Peikin where he interviewed Alexander Dugin, and then at a either earlier or later date, he also interviewed a translator of Dugin's, who was a University of Toronto PhD student. And I contacted either him or one of his translators and got his email and said, Mr. Dugin, could I conduct an interview with you? And in a very brief response, he just said yes.
So I just want to read, in 2014, Dugin said Russia should, quote, kill Ukrainians. He's previously been involved with Pomyat, which has been described as the most significant anti-Semitic organization since Perestroika. He's expressed his admiration for the SS, adopting the alter ego named Hans Sievers, named after the war criminal, who was general secretary of a Nazi research institute that Heinrich Himmler established. I'm just curious. I know you've mentioned Steve Peikin a number of times, and I had limited time to look here, slightly different than the interview that you did. I'll just be honest. Why would you want to platform someone like that?
The exact same reason Steve Peikin did and TVO did, because he is an interesting geopolitical figure, and I was more right than I bargained for initially at how interesting he would get. When I watched the TVO interview and when I watched the work of Michael Millerman, one of his translators, they kind of figured these ideas of...
Do you agree with his views on Ukraine?
No, I don't think we should kill the Ukrainians. On the contrary, I think we should be trying to not kill anybody. Not a big fan of killing people, Ukrainian or otherwise.
And do you prescribe to his anti-Semitic views?
No. Once again, you're interviewing me right now. Do you agree with all of my opinions?
No, I actually find some of them quite offensive. I'm just curious what a Canadian language is. Is that Ojibwe and Cree?
Typically in Canada, our national languages are English and French. I kind of figured this was common knowledge in here, but...
Okay. Well, I guess, it's funny. I was just in the Baltic countries and met with the NATO Center of Excellence on Strategic Communications. And a lot of what you put out aligns perfectly with the type of Russian misinformation that I heard about, particularly around immigration. But anyway, that's just a comment. You have been you keep referring to Steve Peikin and the fact that he did an interview with someone. You went to Russia, if I'm not mistaken, you were barred from going to the UK, is that correct?
Yes, I was barred from going to the UK.
And why was that?
That was because I tried to set up a pride parade in Luton, and the Islamic population there typically are not a big fan of that. And I was told that it was stirring up hatred.
And so you went to Russia to stir up hatred against Jews?
I'm so sorry. What are you referring to?
Look who you deliberately made a trip to Russia to interview someone who is one of the most anti-Semitic people around. Is it just to be controversial? Is that, do you find that funny?
What part? Yeah, I do find it funny that you were accusing me of taking a trip to Russia to stir up hatred around Jews when I don't think Jews came up once during my interview with Alexander Dugin. I don't know where you're getting that from. And once again, Steve Peikin conducted an interview with him. I guess you would have to make the same anti-Semitic accusation against TVO.
Ms. Southern, his views are well known, and you deliberately went there, so you're basically trying to create chaos. funny thing is, that's what they say Russia does with all the things that they do, is try to create chaos in society. So it sounds like your goal is to try and create chaos, and I don't get the sense that you have a lot of respect for Western liberal democracy as it is. So anyway, that's my time, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Damoff.